go ahead and all right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Berkeley Chamber of Commerce here for your lunch hour this beautiful Thursday afternoon. We're delighted to present today on email sequences that bring in sales. Before we get started and I introduce our presenter, I would like to shout out the City of Berkeley's Office of Economic Development for sponsoring this, as well as several other business education workshops that the Chamber produces each year. This session is being recorded. We'll archive it on the Berkeley Chamber YouTube channel. We'll be sending everybody a copy of the recording later this afternoon, and you can feel free to check out all of our past presentations on that YouTube channel. So I'm delighted today to welcome back as a second-time presenter, Dr. Mimi Zhou. Mimi is a certified email strategist and copywriter. She's worked on emails across all industries, from the coaching and course creator space to the world of e-commerce. So she's excited to bring her expertise here to all of you today. As a reminder, feel free to put your questions in the chat and we'll take periodic breaks and make sure that we address all of your questions. So Mimi, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Beth, and thank you so much for having me here to talk to the Chamber. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. So let me pull that up. And let me start my slideshow. All right, so thank you everyone for joining me here today for email sequences that bring in sales. So I am going to kick us off by offering an idea about what emails do and what they don't do. Emails do not solve email problems. No one really has an email problem. What you have in business are business problems, and emails are an asset that you can use to solve your business problems. So this begets the question, what business problems do you need to solve, and how can you use automated email sequences to solve them? So let me unpack all this a little bit. So the biggest business problems tend to be sales and retention. So sales meaning getting your offer in front of people who are interested and selling them, and retention meaning if you have some customers coming in and you want to win repeat business, you want to retain those customers. Or if you have an audience that's interested, but they haven't purchased yet, you want to retain that interest so that they can be potential customers down the line. So those are the biggest business problems, sales and retention. When it comes to automated email sequences, let's define them first. So if you are collecting emails and you are sending out emails to your list, an automated sequence is one step beyond that. An automated email sequence is a series of emails that is loaded into your email service provider. So that is your ConvertKit or your MailChimp. And it goes out automatically. It is usually triggered by something. So it could be triggered by an action. So if you load up a shopping cart online and you abandon your cart, that triggers an abandoned cart sequence. It could be triggered by a moment in time. So the 4th of July is coming up and we are all going to get email campaigns that try to encourage us to go shopping in these stores for the 4th of July. So that is an automated sequence triggered by a moment in time. So our goals here today are to look at an overview of different email sequences that you can use for sales and retention. And then we're going to talk about how to put together an email sequence, which really happens in 2 steps. The first step is about the strategy, and this is a little bit more difficult. It is a little bit more theoretical and conceptual, but you have to do it in order for your emails to work towards sales and retention. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to show you some examples. And then the second part is a lot more fun. I am going to go over how to write a conversion-focused email, meaning an email set up to sell, and we are going to cover examples of that as well. So I am Mimi. I am your host. And as Beth said, I am a Copy Hacker certified email strategist and copywriter. That's my little badge that you see there. I have seen emails, I've worked on emails for service providers in the digital product seller world. So that's your ebooks and your course creators. In SaaS, so that's software and apps, and in e-com. I have seen the ins and outs of a lot of email sequences, and I'm familiar with what we call the gotchas, which are the tricks and traps that you can fall into. And I'm really excited to bring my expertise to you here today. Okay, so let's start by talking about different kinds of automated sequences that you can use for sales and retention. When it comes to sales sequences, my favorite kind of sales sequence is the plain old sales sequence. This is a series of emails that promotes one of your offers to your audience, which would, they would probably be interested in what you have to offer. You can add value to it if this is a special promotion. You can throw in a little bit extra, make the offer a little juicier. You can offer a discount. But this is my favorite part, you do not have to. The point of a sales sequence is to put your offer in front of people who need it so that if it's the right time for them, they can take you up on it and you can help them solve their pains. You can also consider a holiday sales sequence. So I talked about 4th of July a minute ago. That is a holiday sales sequence. The big one is Black Friday, and we are trained to expect huge discounts, really, really attractive discounts during these holiday sales sequences. So this probably would come with a discount. I would expect it to, and this would be triggered around by a certain occasion, right? It's time triggered, so it's a holiday triggered sales sequence. If you are launching a new offer, a new program, or a new product, you can announce that to your list through a launch sequence. So, this would be a series of emails that promote the thing that you are introducing. If it is a program with a set start date, this would also be time triggered because you would need people to enroll by a certain date. So, but if it's not, that's all right as well. Maybe you just have a new offer or a new product that you want to make people aware about. So that would be the job of a launch sequence. And finally, if you are in e-com, I would consider an abandoned cart sequence, which is where, again, when people load up their shopping carts but they don't check out, these emails remind us to go back to that cart and go ahead and check out. So these are sequences that all drive sales. When it comes to retention, the thing that I want to say first about retention is that someone retention happens when someone has already expressed interest in what you're offering. So, for example, maybe someone downloads your free resource from your website, or if you're a brick and mortar, maybe you give a 10% discount to someone's first purchase. You could follow those up with a welcome sequence. A welcome sequence would introduce who you are, what your business is, and it would ideally tell those people what they should expect from you in your emails coming up. And in this way, you're more likely to retain those subscribers because they know what to expect, and the people who are interested can stay on your list. If you do webinars or in-person talks, you can consider following up those signups with a little talk sign-up sequence. So that would be, for example, 3 emails that remind people when the webinar or the talk is, and that would give them different reasons for attending. So you could remind them what you're going to go over, maybe what past people have gotten from it, and encourage them to come, right? Like, don't leave it up to just that one confirmation email because who knows? I mean, who knows what happened? Maybe it didn't make it into their calendar. Maybe it's fighting for a bunch of other things in people's inbox, like their kids' doctor's appointments. So that would be the goal of a follow-up sequence to a sign up. And finally, if you are already sending out emails to your list, but you have a segment of your list that doesn't really engage, so they're not really opening, they're not really clicking on your links, you can consider a reactivation sequence. And that would be a little sequence just to the people, this is targeted just to the people who are not engaging, and you could give them reasons, well, you could, like, remind them why they're on your list, how you have their email, and then give them a few reasons to start opening your emails again, so that when you do promote your offers, when you are selling, they do see them. Because if you are sending emails out to your list, but, people aren't opening those emails, no one is gonna be able to see your offer and purchase it. So, this is not an exhaustive list of all the different kinds of email sequences that you can use, but it gives you an idea of how versatile email is and how you can use it to target sales and retention. Are there any questions so far? Just want to check in.
Hi, I
I don't
have a
see
question.
any. Oh, I'm sorry. Did someone want to speak? Please go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Tamara. Thanks for having me and everybody and doing this. So I have a question about the retention emails. Will you be giving us some kind of a script to look at or guidelines of what to write?
So I am going to go into the email strategy. So I'll give you what you need to think about in order to consider a retention kind of email or any kind of email sequence. And then I will give you guidelines for how to write a conversion focused email. Does
Fantastic.
that? Okay,
That's
awesome.
great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure, sure.
I'll wait for that
Uh,
then.
sounds good. All right. Were there any other questions?
I had a question.
Okay, sure.
So, and I know often when I ask email experts, well, how long does a welcome sequence for like a new sign up have to be? And oh, but by the way, Mimi, thank you for telling us that a webinar should have a series of 3 because, some experts use 1 and some experts use 30. I don't know, it's so I know it's all over the map, but what is your expert recommendation for after they sign up a welcome sequence? How many emails? And maybe you're going to cover that. But, it was so odd because I do follow other experts. I'm a marketer. I follow a lot of marketers. And I saw one person the other day that insisted your welcome sequence for a new member, a new sign up to your email list should be 12 months long.
Okay. Okay, that's very interesting. So the honest answer is that it depends and that there really are no hard and fast rules. So this I think Tamara was the person who asked the first question. Um so I'm not going to give formulas or templates because it really depends. When people give out templates, it means that they've done something that worked once for them. It doesn't mean that it's gonna work for your business. It depends on who your audience is, it depends on what their pain points are and what they need. So, I have also heard of a, 52-week welcome sequence or nurture sequence where they get 1 email per week. Would I recommend that to everyone? Absolutely not. But maybe for the right people, like, yeah, maybe for the right people, you do want to keep in touch with them over a year and drip out 1 email per year. So it really does depend. There's a joke in marketing. I don't know what your question is, but the answer is that it depends. And if anyone tells you otherwise, I'd be very suspicious because, again, what they're telling you is something that worked one time for them and it might not work for you. When it comes to my recommendation for a welcome sequence, what my standard that I kind of like start off with is probably 4 to 5 emails, and that gives enough time to confirm the reason why they're there, tell them what they're gonna get, tell them who you are and why they should trust you, and maybe tease an intro style offer in 1 or 2 emails. I do have a sample welcome sequence coming up, so I will get into this more. But thank you so much for asking your questions. Are there any other questions? Okay, so let's talk about how to strategize your email sequence. So this part is a little bit more conceptual and difficult, but you do have to do it because otherwise your emails are less likely to work. And I am going to put it out there that everything that I say from this point out presumes that you've already done your customer research. So that means that you have talked to your customers, you know what their pains are, you know what their desires are, so that when we talk about strategy and when we talk about writing emails, we are not pulling stuff out of thin air. We are not making it up. Our strategy and our emails are informed from directly from our customers. Um, and maybe you've done your customer research by doing surveys or interviews or review mining. If you don't know what review mining is, I did a talk for the chamber on that last fall, so you can find it on their YouTube channel. But the bottom line is that we've done our customer research before we think about our strategy. When it comes to the strategy of an email sequence, what I mean by that is a conceptualization of the entire flow of the sequence. And to do that, we determine a few things, including how many emails are there? Is it a 3 emailed abandoned cart sequence in 48 hours? Is it a 52 email nurture sequence over a year? How much time elapses between each email? And what is the angle for each emails? So these are the things that I determine when I'm thinking about the strategy. And I will show you how I map this out. I use a program called Whimsical, um, which you don't have to do, but I will show you how I do it. And before I do that, I try to define, firstly, what is the trigger for the sequence? So is it action-based, like an abandoned cart, that is an action, or a welcome sequence, someone has signed up for your list, that's an action, or is it time-based? A 4th of July sequence is a time-based email sequence. So is a launch if it's a program with a set date. What is the goal of the sequence? Is it to sell something? Is it to retain interest? Or is it to segment your list? Segmentation is where you are breaking your list into 2 parts so that you can land more relevant information in front of each of the populations that you're emailing, which would really help you with retention. If people are getting stuff that they're interested in, they're more likely to stay on your list. And finally, I like to define what happens after your sequence. This is the biggest mistake that I see with email sequences. People treat them as one-offs when really they're not. Someone may not buy from you during your sales sequence or your launch sequence, but that doesn't mean that they are never going to buy from you. So if they don't buy, what happens to them after? How do you retain that interest? All right, so I am going to show you how I put together an email flow, and this is an app called Whimsical. You can try it out for free. You also do not have to do this because it is basically a digital like whiteboard, but you can use a piece of paper. So what you see here is you can see that I have my notes here. This is the beginning of an abandoned cart sequence. So the trigger is action-based. It's abandoned cart. The goal is sales. I want people to go back to their cart and check out. And what happens after, if I'm an e-com store and this is my business, I would send out the occasional newsletter update. So I would keep in touch with the people even if they don't check out. All email sequences start off with the first email. So you have email 1 here. The question is what happens next? So you're going to have a second email, right? So I'm going to drop that in here. And for my abandoned cart sequence for this retailer, I'm going to have 3. And all of this is research based. We know that people don't usually check out cart after 3 emails, so there's not much point in, sending more than 3. Since it's abandoned cart, I'm going to start my first email 4 hours after they have bounced. And my first email, the goal of my first email is to encourage them to return to cart and to check out. So that is the content. If they have not checked out after 24 hours, so that's a whole day, I'm going to send my second email. And I'm going to offer a discount because we know that discount works for ecom. So maybe it's 10% off, and I'm going to make it timed. It's 10% off for 24 hours. So if they don't check out after that, I'm going to send my third email, which will have a countdown timer reminding them to check out and that they have limited time. And if my discount only lasts for 24 hours, I probably want to send my third email 20 hours down the line so they have a few hours to check out. So when I talk about email strategy, this is what I mean. What are your goals for the sequence? How many emails are there? What is the timing? And what is the angle of each email? I am going to now show you an example sales sequence. So let me go back to my deck. Okay, so I'm going to put up another flow up on the screen. If it looks complicated, don't worry, it's actually not that complicated. I'm going to talk you through it. If you had seen something similar before and you're like, oh, that's not that bad, you're right. And you know that it can be a lot more complicated. So I'm going to put something up, try not to read it and get lost. Just try to listen to me and follow along. So this is another email sequence. This was one that I wrote for myself and I sent it out to my list at the end of 2022. This was triggered by the new year. It's a New Year's Eve sales sequence. And the goal was to promote my copy polish, which is where I look at 2 of your web pages and I polish them up for conversions. And if people did not buy, what happened after was that they got my monthly newsletter email. So I kept in touch with them. So when you're looking at this, I want to draw your attention first to the fact that this is time triggered. So there are dates involved. So I do have the dates mapped out. This email sequence is 4 emails, and it happens with 3 or 2 days between each email. So you can see that here. It's not quite so short as an abandoned cart sequence, right? Because for abandoned cart, we know that there is a limited window of time when people are more likely to go back and to check out. This is not the case. This is an entirely different case, which is why I say that it really depends. Like your sequence, how many emails and what you say, it really depends. So I have a bit more time, so this goes out over a week. And what you see down here is the fact that in each of these 3 emails, people have the opportunity to opt out of the sequence. So how I set this up is at the beginning of the emails, I say, hey, I'm going to be promoting this. If you don't want to get those emails, click here to opt out. And that sets up a little tag in my email service provider so that when I suppress that tag, the people who have opted out don't get my sales emails, and I am more likely to retain them on my list. They're not just going to unsubscribe because they're not getting spam that they don't want. So I'd like to note that I have thought about all of these things before I have thought about the copy at all. And this is why strategy is so important. You need to define these things before you get to the copy. The copy is the most fun part. It's also the shortest part, which people I think find kind of disappointing. But if you don't define the strategy, the copy isn't going to work. Okay. So the final thing is to think about the angles of each email. So this sequence starts by sharing resources that I've created to help my audience this year, and it lets me tease my offers. This one doesn't sell, it just sort of, kicks off the sequence. And the next 3 sell my copy polish in different ways. There are different angles so that I'm not saying the same thing over and over, which is a trap that people fall into. If you are promoting an offer and you're describing it the same way every time, then people come to know what to expect from your emails and stop opening. And in that way, you lose that engagement. So, Yeah, so the first sales email talks about how this copy polish can set them up for success next year. The second email, I will show you the beginning of this a bit later on. And it has the angle of how to make one thing really good in your business instead of working on a bunch of things and not having any of them be really good. And the third email is a case study that demos results from what people have gotten from previous copy polishes. So 3 sales emails, 3 different angles. Are there any questions so far? Okay, let me show you one more thing, and then we will be done with the strategy side of this presentation. So this is an example welcome sequence. Let's say that I am a health coach and I work with 2 populations. I work with working professionals and I work with retirees. So these are 2 populations that have different needs, different pains. And so when I am collecting emails into my email service provider, I want to segment them because I'm not going to want to send something for working professionals to retirees and vice versa. You would confuse your list. So the trigger is that this is a welcome sequence. So someone has signed up for my email list via a form. It's action triggered. The goal is to retain readers by sending emails relevant to them. And to do that, we'll segment the new signups. And what happens after is a biweekly email to everyone with the occasional sales sequence to the relevant segment only. So as you can tell, this starts with one email, and this email has 2 blog links. One offers information for retirees and one offers information for working professionals. When someone clicks on either one of those links, they get tagged in my email system. So if someone clicks on the link for retirees, they get a little retirees tag and then they get targeted information towards them specifically. So what they need to know about movement, an intro to me as an expert on retiree health. This would be different from my introduction as a working professional, as someone, for working professionals, because I want to make that information targeted and tailored to each segment. You don't have to use the same introduction every time. And then it would end an intro with an intro offer for each segment. So in this way, I am landing information more relevant to each part of my email list and more likely to retain interest. All right. Are there any questions about the strategy side of things before I move on to the copy? Does this answer questions about welcome sequences and what was asked earlier? Okay, awesome. All right. So we have gotten through the hard part. We have gotten through the hard strategy part, and now we are at the fun part where we talk about how to actually write conversion-focused emails. Oh, someone is raising their hand. Yes, Carolyn, what is your question?
Yeah, sorry to jump in a little late after that last slide, but I just had a question regarding that first initial day 0 email. Where are you getting those 2 lists from, or the list to use for that initial email? Like, I understand what the subsequent emails entail, but I'm just wondering where that's generated from.
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is a welcome sequence. So this is for someone after they've signed up for a free resource, for example. And so this email is the kickoff email. So it's automated right after they've confirmed their email.
Okay, so there were previous to that, there was some sort of lead magnet that generated that email capture, and then this is the kickback email from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay,
Perfect.
great, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Okay, so let's talk about how to write conversion-focused emails. Again, presuming that you have done your customer research, so no part of this is made up. When you write your emails, you know what your customers' pains and desires are, so you are not making things out of thin air. So I'm going to run through the elements of conversion copy. And this is a tiny bit more theoretical, but then we're going to look at actual emails. So I'm going to tell you what to look for, what you want in your emails, and we're going to identify them so you know actually what to put in. So a conversion copy focused email should have a hook. Yes, you do need a hook. People are bored and burned out, and you need to give them a reason to open and read your emails when their inboxes are overcrowded. I highly suggest using a framework. So some of my favorite frameworks are up there. My favorite one is PAS, which stands for Problem Agitation Solution. So if you are using the PAS framework, you would be organizing your information into that order. You can also use the AIDA framework, Attention, Interest, Desire, Action. If you ever read copy and it makes you feel kind of good, it's probably following the AIDA framework because that is more sort of like desire led and like fun stuff. If you read copy and you feel a little bit bad, it probably follows PAS because that is pain led. You start with the problem. So definitely look out for these when you are reading copy. And finally, another framework I like is the 4Ps, which stands for Picture, Promise, Proof, Push. So you would organize your information in that order, and I do have an example for you. You want your emails to have a call to action or a call to value. Both are opportunities for your audience to click to either go over to a sales page, or in the case of a call to value, maybe to learn something or to get more information. As it becomes harder to track opens in emails, which we are already seeing with privacy laws, the only way that we're going to know whether people have actually opened emails is if they click. So that's also why it's important to give people opportunities to click. And finally, your email should have a compelling subject line. This is last. I know you see the subject line first. This is last because I always do all of this and then I write a bunch of subject lines and pick the most compelling one. Okay, so all of this is much more easy to understand in practice. So let's look at some actual examples. So this is an email from the sales sequence that I showed you earlier. This is an email I wrote, and as you might imagine, it follows the PAS framework. So I am going to read it to you and talk you through it. So the subject is what I learned from a business friend's regret. Okay, so already there's a bit of a hook, right? Because so this is about someone who's made a mistake and people love to avoid mistakes. So it's already a little bit hooky. Give someone a reason to open the email. And then it starts, I thought I needed to create so many new things instead of getting one better thing in front of more people. This actually took me a long time to learn. A business friend shared this with me earlier this year, and boy, did I feel her regret. As entrepreneurs, we get so many ideas. They're all important, and we want to act on all of them because we have big dreams for the folks whom our work would help. But the reality is that we also have limited time. And when we give all the things 75% of our effort, it's less effective than polishing one thing up to 100% perfection. Okay, so just quick pause here. Here you have the hook, which is a continuation of the hook from the subject, which is the little story about the regret. And then the problem is stated. The problem is just that as entrepreneurs, we get too many ideas. The agitation comes in when I say that, like, hey, if you're working on all the things, none of the things you're working on is actually that good. So this is very specific. This is not listing all of someone's pain points. It's not a really big list that makes someone feel bad. It's very specific. It just gets them, it just hits that one point and illustrates why it hurts a little bit. So And then I continue. So then this, when it comes to your copy, your premium packages are less likely to sell if your website's at that 75% marker rather than the 100% premium one, because your website's responsible for building trust with your audience. And no matter what you sell, you are always, always, always selling trust. While my done for you web copy packages take months to complete, my small start, big win copy polish gets you your chosen assets up to that 100% level in 1 week. Okay, so then this introduces the solution, and this email goes on to talk about the solution in more detail and what people get. So here you see the PAS framework. There's not a big list of pain points. Honestly, when I see those big laundry list of pain points, it makes me feel so bad that I probably bounce. If someone is bouncing from your email up here and your link to your offer is down here, they don't make it down here. So that's why it's important to be, when you're doing pain and agitation, be specific and hit that one nail on the head. You don't have to hit a bunch of things. About this link, I just want to point out that design-wise, it's very clearly a link. It's underlined, it's highlighted in blue, it's bolded, it's even spaced apart from the rest of the email. So if someone opens this and they are scrolling, they know this is the link to click. And I want them to click because this takes them to the sales page, which is where, where the money comes in. So I do want to point these things out about the design that you might want to think about when you're putting together your emails. All right, so I have a second email for you, and this exemplifies the ADA framework. This is an email from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who was my representative when I lived in New York 14. And I would love it if someone would read this email out loud, starting with the subject line. So can I have a volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
All right, awesome.
You can hear
Go
me?
ahead.
Everybody
I can hear
me?
you.
Okay, so why am I considered extreme is a question. That's her subject line. And then she clearly has her logo, you know whose email you're reading. Here's a question I get a lot. Why are you considered to be extreme? I'm considered, air quotes, extreme because, one, I believe in Medicare for all, aka guaranteed health care in the United States. Two, I authored the Green New Deal and believe tackling the climate crisis will take a much more massive and serious mobilization than what we're doing now. Number three, although I am a Democrat, I operate independently from either party's establishment. So I'm willing to challenge my own party's leadership and, when necessary, break from the party line.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so what is the hook in this email?
The hook is her question of why she's considered extreme. We all want to know why, and that's going to make us more likely to open the email.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So the hook is in the subject line. It's enticing. Do I want to know why someone is considered extreme? Like, yes. And that's followed through in the first line. So this is the attention part of ADA. And the reason I really like this email is because it exemplifies the interest and desire so well. So even though this is written from the point of view of AOC, she's talking about herself, she uses I. When she says these things, I believe in whatever, 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 she's really talking about her people. She's talking about you, in fact, and what she will do for you. So it's a great example of when someone is using I, but they actually mean you. So I think she does that really well here. So the email does continue, and Cynthia, if you're up for it, I would love for you to read the rest.
Sure. People like to lie about and caricature me a lot, which makes folks believe all sorts of things that aren't true. But together we built a movement fighting for each and every one of these issues, from Medicare for all to democratizing fundraising power in politics. If you'd like to help support our movement this year, could you donate $10 or anything you can afford right now to keep our movement strong? Your donation sustains our movement and keeps our team of dedicated organizers doing their work for a dignified wage. Make your $10 donation here today. Contribute 10. In solidarity, Alexandria.
Thank you so much for that wonderful reading. Okay, so so this email, it gets our attention, it gives us reasons why we care, why we're interested and what we want, and then there is a call to action. So I want to note about the design. The CTA is like it's unmistakable. There is a blue box around it, so that sets it apart. This email is left aligned. So you can see here, this is left aligned, but the call to action is center aligned. So it breaks, there's a pattern break there, which makes it catch the eye more. It's folded and you really cannot miss this big blue link. It's just giant. And then on top of it, there's also a button. So these are elements of design that you might want to think about around your call to action. So it makes the click easy. All right. So I really like this email as an example of ADA. And I have one more email to show you, and that exemplifies the 4 Ps: picture, promise, proof, push. So this email is from True Botanicals, which is a skincare company, and they're an e-com company, so we're in the world of e-com. And I want to point out that when you see this email right away, you can tell this is e-com because e-com tends to have this graphic heavy kind of email with this header. If you are subscribed to stores that push emails to you, like they have an online retail component, you're getting emails like this. So I think this email is okay. I think there are ways it could be better, but let me talk you through it. Okay, so this is selling a product that like work is supposed to target acne. So the subject line is unclog pores, fight infection, get glowing. And then when you open it, you see the picture, that's the first P, and the promise: clear collection, banish blemishes, balanced skin. And then it goes on for a bit, but this is the rest of it. It ends with proof. So the results are in. We not only outperform Proactiv in an independent clinical trial, reducing acne lesions over time, but also significantly reduced skin dryness. Get the facts. This is a call to value if you want to get more information. This is a call to action if you want to shop. So when it comes to this email, all of the 4 Ps are here: picture, promise, proof, push. So I think it's pretty okay. I have 2 things about this email, and the first is that I think the subject line could be stronger because do I really want my skincare to fight infection? Maybe, but I'm not sure that that is what I really think about when I think about skincare. If this sells something that targets acne, I think a stronger subject line is fight acne better than Proactiv. I think I think that's a stronger subject line. It tells you what it does, it names a known competitor, and it tells you that it's better and that it will get you better results. The second thing about this email that I don't know if I would change, but I wonder about is that this has an angle of getting clear skin. So you see that in the promise in the headline, and then the graphic is it's okay to me. It's like kind of minimalistic, kind of I see the water and like, okay. But if you're promising clear skin, I wonder why they landed on this graphic. Like, was it too hard to show clear skin? Did they have to make too many decisions about like um which demographic to feature, whether to feature one person or multiple people? Did that just get too messy? And then they were like, okay, we're going to use this image instead. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing. But this gives you an idea of how I look at emails. When I look at emails, I'm always looking at how I can improve them. How would I rewrite this myself? so that I know how I would, write my own emails to make them better than what I am seeing. So, um, all right. So this wraps up everything I have for you on email strategy and on copy today. I started this by suggesting that emails do not solve email problems and emails solve instead business problems. So I hope by talking you through how I put together email strategy and then how I think about writing conversion focused emails that you have some tools to put together your own email sequences, strategy and copy wise, so that you can go for those sales and for that retention. If you like this and you would like more, I strongly suggest that you sign up for my newsletter. I will put that link in the chat right now so you can just open it up. Um, my newsletter is about customer research, and I send usually one email a month about one piece of customer research and how to turn that into conversion copy. It's also the place where I announce the events that I'm doing first. And I do have an opportunity where I'll be answering questions about what to do to make copy action focused. So if you would like me to, if you want to hear more from me, this is where you can find out more. Sign up, and you can also find me on Instagram and on LinkedIn. I would really love to connect with you, so do say hello over there. If you could tell me what was good about this, if you could put it in the chat, that would be great. And I will read all the comments later. I won't, probably won't read them right now, but I will read them later. I do always appreciate them. So please, if there was anything good you want to share, do share that. And I will now take all questions, comments, complaints, and concerns.
Mimi, do you have a preferred email service provider that you use?
That is a great question. So I use ConvertKit. It is free to sign up. You do have to pay for the automated sequences, but I think MailerLite, you don't have to pay yet for that. So yeah, so I like ConvertKit fine. I mean, every email service provider has its pros and cons. So if you want something that's easy to start with, I would, try ConvertKit. If you want something with more features, do look at MailerLite because I'm always hearing about how they have more features on the free plan. I hope that answers that question.
What do you think about MailChimp? That's what I use.
So I don't use MailChimp. I like ConvertKit better. Are there reasons that you like MailChimp or reasons that you're asking?
So I'm an artist. I have an art business, and I'm using a service that builds the website and provides marketing assistance, and it's based fully with artists and photographers. So they do actually supply copy for us to just kind of plug in our own details. And MailChimp was the service that they suggested we start with. So that's all I know, really. I know that there are others, but I've only used MailChimp, so.
If you're using MailChimp already and your emails are already in there, then I would just stick with MailChimp. I wouldn't
Okay.
necessarily change. Don't change software stuff for the sake of it.
Mhm.
I try to only change when there is a reason. So if something has a feature that I don't have, that would be a reason to switch. But yeah, don't just if it's working for you fine right now, just stick with it and only change because it's a bit of a pain to change email
Right.
service providers. If you have a concrete reason, like thingy over here has feature that I don't have that I want, then
Right.
that would be the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And they have a lot of things that are for free, but as any other thing, if you pay more, then I could do automated if I paid for a premium or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. With the automated things, I always feel like they're not always timely. Like, my whatever is going on with me isn't always gonna be the same as when that email went out. You know what I mean? The one I wrote last week might not really be as timely information. Does that make sense?
So that is why considering the timing of an automated sequence is part of the strategy.
Mhm.
And the truth is you can't satisfy everyone. So for example, we run Black Friday sales, but Black Friday is usually, like other people don't celebrate Thanksgiving. It's
Mhm.
American-based holiday. If I send out an email sequence, but I have followers in Australia and I'm doing my, Californian timing, they're going to get them at all sorts of hours. They're going to get them in the middle of the night, whatever time it is in Australia, because there's such a big time difference between California and there. Um, so you can't, you're never going to get the timing perfect. There's always going to be some margin of error. But if you strategize and you think about it, you think, is this timing based or action triggered? And you try as much as you can to lay out your strategy, you're reducing the risk that that emails are landing at inconvenient times.
Mhm.
And hopefully when you reduce risk, you increase retention, if not sales.
I was meaning more not like when it arrives in their email box, because I know that's a whole other science to that. Um, I was meaning the content might not be as timely.
Right. So that's also why it's part of the strategy.
Mhm.
So you want to think about what you're sending at what time. That's the angles. That's what goes in these boxes.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And I find that I get a lot of I get over 50% opening rate, which is supposed to be really good, I guess. But whenever I throw a sale, nobody ever buys from me when I'm having a sale. Only when I'm not having a sale. So I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's just my audience doesn't like the whole salesy thing, or I don't know. It's very weird.
So there's a lot of factors. There's what are you selling?
Mhm.
A $30 pair of earrings is very different from a done for you painting that is thousands.
Mhm.
So what are you selling? How are you selling it? What is the angle of the campaign?
Mhm.
Are you giving different reasons for people to be interested? So
Right.
you're not repeating the same thing. So there is a lot to test with
Mhm.
email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually like a blanket 30% off sale for Mother's Day or whatever.
Mhm. So what I would do is look at the timing and then look at the angles. So if it's for Mother's Day, it's why should I buy, whatever for my mom? And
Mhm.
maybe you have more than it's not just yeah, it's never just here's a sale. Let me give you a discount. Let me show you something quickly. I'm going to
Yeah.
share my screen again. And Carolyn, I see that your hand is raised and I do want to answer all questions, so I will. I'm not going to forget about you. I we have until like 15 after the hour. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Let me so okay, so I have some extra emails here for you to show you. So we're just gonna keep going through. Okay, so this is an example where, not this one. This one is an example of an email that I think is pretty terrible. It's from Sephora, so you can tell it's e-com. It's got the graphic. The subject line is get a free Lunar New Year sample set with minimum spend, and then you open it and it's celebrate the Lunar New Year. And so if you look at this, it's like, what's wrong with it? I mean, it's just a sale. And so what's wrong with it is that, first of all, Lunar New Year is not something that is celebrated with gifts. Lunar New Year is about spending time with your family. Um, you don't celebrate like you don't celebrate Lunar New Year. So think if you don't celebrate New Year, think about the New Year. Do you celebrate that by getting a sample set? I'm not sure that you do. So this email, when I got this, I was like, this would make me run far away. This is like the opposite of what I think Lunar New Year is. So you never want to send, it's never just like, here's a holiday, let me give you a discount. If it's for Mother's Day, it's why is this thing that you're selling relevant for Mother's Day? You know, and we see this mistake, like so many people make this mistake. There's going to be so many 4th of July emails. There are so many Black Friday emails where it's everyone else is giving a discount. Um, like, here's a discount, here's a holiday, let's just give you a discount. And that I think tends not to work. And so you do want to think more about it. So I hope that gives you some factors to consider. Um, okay, so Carolyn, what is your question?
Yes, thank you. I just had a quick question, going back to your original comment about email marketing platforms. So are you familiar, have you ever, I'm sure you're familiar with it, but have you ever used HubSpot? I've only ever used MailChimp and Constant Contact because the companies where I work, those are the platforms that they were using. So I'm just wondering if HubSpot is a better option.
So I've never used HubSpot personally. I think HubSpot is used by larger companies. So, and it has quite quite a lot of features.
Mhm.
So are you interested in those features, or is there a reason that you are curious?
No, I just know that there are several organizations out there that employ email marketing to an extensive amount, or not extensive, comprehensive. And there are some that use HubSpot. So I was just curious if there were certain elements that HubSpot offers that made that more engaging for them, or they were more compelled to use that as a platform. But I just wanted your thoughts, if you had been a user or had any knowledge.
I don't have thoughts. I see Chris unmuted. So Chris, do you have anything to say, or did you
I
unmute
have
for another?
I have a
Sorry.
question. I will say HubSpot does a lot of they have a startup focused product that's a little simpler. I know I've seen that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's more of a pro product than a lightweight product.
Okay, that makes sense. And I'm just wondering, in conjunction with that, are there any like email marketing courses or certifications that you could recommend or that you know of?
Sure. Okay. So I do want to say about the email service provider, unless if you have a reason to switch, I would recommend not switching because it is a pain. None of them are perfect. And what works for one company, it's like with the strategy earlier, what works for one company may not work for you.
Mhm.
So if you ever switch, be specific about, like, know specifically why you are switching. We think the grass is always greener on the other side, but the grass is never really greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. So water your own grass. Um, so about learning more. So I recommend signing up for my newsletter because I do talk about emails. When it comes to learning about email marketing, I've done all of my email training with Copy Hackers. I will put their link in the chat. So Copy Hackers is run by Joanna Wiebe, who is one of my mentors. She has worked with, I think she's known more for SaaS and ecom, but they have courses on how to write conversion focused emails that you can do. And I think they're usually reasonably priced. They usually do a spring sale that is probably too late now, but they usually have a Black Friday sale. So if you are if you can wait, that might be a very interesting price. Um, but yeah, I recommend checking out Copy Hackers. All right. So
Yeah.
Chris, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Chris,
I
you
was
wanna-
wondering, I read that Google is changing up the spam rules to um, be more difficult for people who send email. Does that change your strategy at all?
Yep, 100%. Yes. email deliverability has changed because Google had too many email addresses, too much spam. Spam went on the rise with AI, and there's just too much spam. So they are making it, I guess, not more difficult, but you do have to be more strategic about ensuring that the domain you send your emails from has a good reputation so that your emails are more likely to land in people's inboxes. So this is a change in email deliverability, which means the ability for an email to pass certain factors and get sent out so it leaves your email service provider and actually land in someone's inbox. So
But
if
is
you
that the
haven't,
same as, so when you say deliverability, does that mean it might not even go, or it just ends up in their spam folder?
it means both. It means it might, if your domain reputation is really tanked, I think it might not even go because there are checkpoints. It's not like from A to B. It's you schedule the email, some checkpoints happen, and then more checkpoints, and then inbox. So if it got stopped here, it won't even be sent out. Yeah. So if you haven't already, I recommend setting up what's called your SPF, your DKIM and DMARC.
On
And
what is it,
yeah,
MailChimp, they requested that we set up our DKIM and DMARC, and that would allow us to continue uh avoiding some of these new filters that Google and some of the other big email providers are implementing. And that's my 2 cents.
yeah. If you have more questions, let me put my email in the chat. You can email me about this and I can refer you to someone that I learned about this from, and I'll send you the link where you can find more. So feel free to email me.
What is a DMARC?
That is a good question. To be honest, I don't think anyone really knows, but these are all ways that your emails ensure good domain reputation. So I think SPF and DKIM have to do with identity, like verifying that your emails come from you and you say who you are, who you say you are.
Mhm.
DMARC refers to a contingency plan. So if anything goes wrong in the SPF and DKIM parts, there is some contingency plan where your emails are either sent out or they're not. That is the best explanation I can give.
Okay. So there's no way to like, but there is a way to fix that so that it doesn't affect you.
There is a way, and so I've learned about this. You can look this person up. Yeah, I've learned about this from someone named Cheryl Rerick. She has a free webinar on this where she breaks it down. It's very technical. I found that once I kind of got the gist of it, I haven't needed to like delve into the technical stuff because I set it up for myself and it's set up and I can kind of explain what's going on to my clients. But yeah, she has a free webinar. If you want to email me, I can give you my affiliate for that, which just means that if you purchase her paid workshops after, I get a percentage of that. But you don't have to, you can just look her up. And I do recommend everyone watches the free webinar because this is timely. This has happened already, and you do need to protect your email deliverability, your ability for an email to land in your ideal person's inbox in order to sell. Because if the emails aren't going out or they're not landing, your people aren't getting your emails.
Yeah, and it takes such a long time just to write them and make them.
Yeah. Yeah, Caroline, it involves entering the correct DNS records. And some people do have a tech person who can your email, like I had a client who uses Entreport and she just booked a meeting with them and they set it up for her. So if you have someone available to you from your email service provider, maybe you can contact them. Yeah.
Great. Well, Mimi, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful, wonderful presentation. If there are no more questions, I want to make sure we do a last call. But if there are no more questions, we'll wrap up. We'll send everybody Mimi's contact info, how to sign up for her newsletter. We'll send you a link to this recording. Again, you can check out all of the videos on our YouTube channel, including Mimi's prior one on review mining, which is incredibly helpful as well. Thank you again to our sponsors over at the city's Office of Economic Development. And we thank you for joining Mimi and the Berkeley Chamber of Commerce for your lunch hour today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Mimi.
You're
Thanks, Mimi.
welcome. Thank you.